Alright, so after a week off, I'm back uploading here on the channel. So I took a little vacation. Now I'm back. I want to talk about Persona 5 Royal. So, I have been playing Persona 5 Royal on PlayStation 4, and I've been streaming some of it on Twitch. And those of you who don't know, yes, I do have a Twitch, and I do stream video games from time to time on Twitch. I'm not a full-time Twitch streamer. I do it really for fun whenever I have time. There's no set schedule or anything. And I was doing like daily streams at one point just a few weeks ago, playing Uncharted and then later on playing Persona 5. And I did a really long, like 5 hour and 20-minute stream playing Persona 5 Royale, or Royal. But I wanted to do a little video giving my first impressions on this game because I'm only about 10 hours or so into the game. And I know this is a very long game. And I want to talk about it here on this video. So first of all, a lot of people have been dying for me to play this game. They know that I love JRPGs. And I remember I once got into a debate or whatever with Afro Senju on Twitter because I was just kind of being a clown, talking about how I was unhappy that Persona 5 had beaten Dragon Quest III as being the most beloved Japanese JRPG, right? Because for years, Dragon Quest III was the top JRPG, and that game came out back in the late 80s, right? And it's such a good game. Think about this, folks. Dragon Quest III is such a good game, such a culturally important game for Japan, that it was on the list for like decades. That should tell you something, that a Nintendo game was on there so long. But it got beat by Persona 5, and then Afro was like, well, what do you know about Persona 5? You ever played it? And at that point, I did not play it. This was years ago, by the way. So we had a back and forth or whatever. It all got resolved. But that was the first time I ever actually heard of Persona 5. Now, I knew about the Persona series, but I didn't know that Persona 5 was so beloved. I didn't know it was so important of a game to so many people, including the Japanese. So I'm like, okay, well, the Americans, a lot of them never got exposure to Dragon Quest, so I understand them gravitating more towards Final Fantasy, Pokemon, and now Persona, which to me is very unfair, because Dragon Quest is just as good as a lot of those series, if not better. But I was like, okay, Persona 5, interesting. Like, it kind of put a seed in my head. And then I had other friends of mine, like Tengen Kage, and other people tell me all about Persona 5 and how it's a great game, it's really long. And I had been kind of putting off playing it because it's so long. Like, these long games that are like over 60 hours, dude, I know you're going to get your money's worth for the most part. Some of them you don't. Some you do. But I kind of didn't want to invest myself into a game that was that long right away. I wanted to play 10 to 15, 20-hour games because I want to go in, play the game, have fun, and beat it. Not really spend too much time on it. Well, I decided for 2021 I was going to play more video games, and I decided to go ahead and start Persona 5 Royal. My first Persona game ever. I never played Persona 4. I never played Persona 3. I never played Shin Megami Tensei. I knew of the series, but I never played it. So Persona 5 is my very first one. So, first and foremost, my initial impressions. I gotta be honest with you. The first 7 hours of this game are very, very slow. This game gets off to a slow start. There's a lot of dialogue. I'm not really too sure what's going on. I'm still trying to learn kind of how it works. It's a bit confusing, right, at first. And I'm not really into the characters right away. It's very much, and for those of you who have never played a Persona game, it's very much like a high school type of anime with a twist. It is very much anime influence. You have anime cutscenes. You have anime-esque characters. You have a talking cat. You have all these things that have become synonymous with Japanese anime, but it is within a JRPG. It's not like a medieval type of JRPG. It's not one that's like a futuristic or even post-apocalyptic one like Final Fantasy 7 and 8 were. It's just its own sort of thing where it takes place in what is, I guess, the real world, but then you go into an alternate sort of reality, like a dream world type of thing, and that's where things get wacky, and that's where the game becomes the JRPG. You have dungeons and castles and things like that you explore in this alternate world. And you don't really figure that out right away. You have this town, you use the Tokyo, it's actually in Tokyo, and the locations in this game are actually A lot of them actually exist in the real world. They look different, but I went to Japan last year, and again, they're named different, but they are real places, just obviously changed up for the game. But the way the game looks, it does look like Tokyo. The subway system looks like the subway system. Like, they did a tremendous job of having it sort of feel and look like the real thing. And to me, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Shenmue. A lot of like sort of going to different places and doing different things, and then eventually moving on to continue the game. Now, I don't know much about what happens in the future because I am trying to avoid spoilers, but I know the game has tons of side quests. It has tons of things to do. And the game itself, even without side quests, is very long. One thing I will tell you about the game that struck me is that I really love... A couple things I love about the game. Even though the game is, mechanically speaking, very much like Dragon Quest, stylistically speaking, it's the opposite. Completely the opposite. And I appreciate both. What I mean by mechanically speaking is that although the game does have unique game mechanics, some of which borrowed from other games like Chrono Trigger, there are things here that were used in Suikoden, all kinds of little things from different games. This game is in itself a turn-based JRPG. And I love turn-based JRPGs. It's like playing chess, except with different kinds of spells and attacks and all this kind of stuff. But this game changes things up. Every character has like a projectile weapon that has different sort of effects in battle. And then you have these things called personas, which are basically literally like sort of like creatures or enemies that you can tap into to do attacks. You don't transform into them necessarily, but they kind of fuse with you in a weird way. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. And in battle, they have different, each one, whichever one's fused to you, or you can fuse them together as well. They have like different kinds of spells and attacks or whatever. I call them spells. You can call them abilities. It's whatever. It's the same thing. And attacks that can be used as well as healing and things of that nature. Right? And so you level these things up as you progress through the game. And as you progress through the game, you also can capture new ones and also level up, like I said, the ones that you already have and fuse them. So that's a cool idea. It's been done before, but Persona gives it a very unique thing. Now, what I mean by stylistically is that this game is stylistically absolutely wonderful. It has this awesome soundtrack that's like this jazzy sort of, new wave kind of techno-ish sound. Really a lot of jazz. Tons of like relaxing music. The combat music is very relaxing and chill. The soundtrack when it plays, it's fun. Very different from Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest is much more of like an old school medieval John Williams type of, lots of violins and trumpets and, very epic orchestral score. This is much more like New York underground jazz sound, and I love it. Like, I love the differences, I'm okay with that. And also just the way the characters look, the character designs are just completely wacky. Like, I think that the guys who designed this game are totally on drugs. I mean, the game feels like a drug trip. The game feels like a legitimate acid trip, And I've never had an acid trip before, but I'm sure it's like this. You've got these weird mutants. You've got these weird... it's got all kinds of profanity and sex jokes. It's definitely not a game for little kids if you're that kind of person who doesn't want like any kind of like profanity or sexual stuff in there. It's got tons of it in this game. It really is a game for adults. It really is sort of like the, I guess you can call it like the adult Dragon Quest in a way. Like Dragon Quest is for all ages, including adults. This game really tackles a lot more. For example, the first major boss of the game is like this freaking perverted teacher. Like, the game addresses like teachers having sex with students type of stuff. Like, not that directly, but it's there. A pervy teacher who's a sicko. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, I've never seen an RPG do that. I mean, the last one that was like this was Earthbound, which is another classic. And that game mirrors this one. There's a lot of similarities between Earthbound and Persona 5. But the game, there's a lot to this game. I mean, there's just a lot. I've only scraped the surface. I'm only 10 hours in. Like, God knows what else there is to do in this game. But I know that later on you can date people. I've been told in the streams that you can like date like the chick in the medical room and all that. Like, there's all kinds of things you can do in this game. But man, like, whether or not you like this kind of game, the one thing that I can tell you is that you won't forget this game. I mean, you won't. It's just, even if you drop it after a few hours, which I guess some people have done, even though not many, you'll remember this game, because this game, dude, is just loaded with memorable characters and moments. And to be honest, the villains are more interesting than the good guys, at least so far in the game. And just the way everything looks, the menu system, everything just looks so dynamic and so alive, and it's just a really unique visual experience. So, yeah, with that being said, I am still going to play through the game. I'm going to take my time with it, because it is long. I'm not going to play the game only on Twitch. I'm going to be playing more Uncharted games. I already beat 1, 2, and 3. Probably going to play Resident Evil 3, which I got at a flea market for $20 the other day. And I just got Dark Souls, and I've heard that that game is going to haunt you because of how difficult it is. But I'll see that when I play it. But I think I'm going to kind of switch around and try different things out. But overall, my first impression of Persona 5 is very unique, very interesting, very stylistic, and unlike anything I've ever played before. It really is like a modern Earthbound in many. It's like Earthbound grew up. That's what it sounds like to me anyways. With that being said, that's it. Talk to you soon.